Unfortunately, killing is one of those things that gets easier the more you do it. Those are some of the first words that I saw when I was booting up this game, Bloodspear. I briefly heard about this game in a video talking about Souls-likes, which I'm personally a big fan of. I love the Dark Souls series, Bloodborne and Sekiro, and I'm incredibly excited for Elden Ring that releases next month. Of course, I plan to do a video about that, but we'll save that for when the game actually comes out. Today I'm here to talk about Bloodspear. It's a student graduation project that takes the form of an action game set in a dark fantasy world. Now, I'm not entirely sure if I would personally categorize this as a Souls-like, as the only thing really Souls-like about it is the environment and maybe the respawn system, which is really cool by the way, but that's something I'll get into later. The game is relatively short. It took me less than 30 minutes to finish all the content, but seeing as this is a demo and a project made by a small team, I'm not really going to say that's a slight against them. Now, with this being a student project, it really is kind of experimental, and I think it's made some really interesting ideas and concepts into something that really works. I really hope to see something like this in the future, but for now, I really just want to get into the meat and potatoes of this game. The game starts off with this evil spear talking about how it needs blood to gain its strength back. Hey, that sounds familiar. After the cutscene plays out, your character, this knight-looking dude, spawns in, and he's surrounded by all these other knights that are crawling towards you trying to get that spear. They don't really do much, however, they can only really crawl, and even then they don't really move. They're more like target dummies for you to practice the combat, which is really interesting. It's more like a third-person shooter than any typical action RPG. Aim down sights, throw a spear, and after you kill them, you can absorb their blood to heal yourself. Now, this combat is really simplistic. You can throw the spear, and then the spear will actually embed in the enemies or the environment. Then you can shatter those spears to deal damage, dealing more damage the more spears are embedded in said enemy. This mechanic is mainly used for the shield-carrying enemies and enemies with a lot of health. Most enemies die in one hit except for two, which are the shield-carrying enemies and these little fountain-looking things that kind of spawn enemies. They're really hard to hit. After you finish off all of the knights, you can go down this hallway and another cutscene plays where the spear talks about how it needs more power. A little further down the hallway, you'll find this little ghost dude. He's kneeling with a spear in front of him, and you can talk to him and he'll give you a little piece of dialogue. Now these are your respawn points. When your health drops to 0, your knight dies, but the spear sticks around, giving you two options to either possess or give up. I was a little confused when I saw the silhouettes, but then I went over to him and hey, I found one of these kneeling ghost dudes from the beginning, and it let me possess him and keep on going. I think that was a really cool concept for a respawn point. Leaving the opening area, you're going to cross a bridge with some enemies that are going to die in one hit, and the area itself isn't hard. It serves more as like a transitional area. However, it does have some really gorgeous backdrops that I think were really amazing to look at. After crossing the bridge, you're going to come across a castle with these floating eyeball enemies and these little xenomorph looking sack things that spawn them. They're really easy to take out. The eyes die in one hit and you can just shatter the spears on the xenomorph sacks. After you make your way through the castle and get up these stairs, which are blocked off at the beginning, you'll enter the Tomb of the First King, where you encounter the only boss in the game, which is called the Old King Remnant. The design of the boss is simplistic, being only a floating head with two floating hands, but I think that adds to the charm, personally. One of the boss's hands blocks its eyes, which are the weak points that you actually have to hit. It throws out these AoE bombs that burn you, and then it slams the hand that's not blocking its face down on the ground, which reveals an area on the palm that you can hit. This pins the hand to the wall, and then while the other hand is going to retrieve it, you can hit the eyes. It's really easy to kill, but it is the first boss, so I can kind of respect that. In the second phase, it's got this big eye on its forehead that shoots lasers that you have to dodge, and that's also the weak point that you're going to have to hit. Pretty much the same as the first phase. You hit the weak point with the spear, shatter for extra damage until it's dead, and then you can suck its soul, I guess. Well, it's called King's Blood in the game. I'm not really sure what this does. It might be something like boss souls in the Dark Souls games or things like that, but it doesn't really have a use outside of being a end point or trigger to enter the next area. The boss and the game as a whole aren't really challenging, but seeing as it is a student project, that's easily forgivable. It's more like a tech demo or like a proof of concept or something. I think it works really well. Now, this game is really an amazing concept. The team clearly put a lot of thought in this, and I think it definitely shows that this is a passion project, which I really like. After the credits roll, I really felt myself wanting more out of this world. I understand it's just a demo, but I couldn't help but think about all the ways that the spear mechanic could be used, like not just for combat, but maybe for puzzle solving as well. One thing that came to mind was something like the Oracle's encounter in the Vault of Glass from Destiny. It shows you a pattern and you have to hit the targets in that pattern, kind of like a game of Simon Says. Overall, I feel like this concept and this world have great potential, and I would love to see this team put some time and some resources into it and make a full game if they choose to do so. They could really make something special here. But regardless of whether they put more work into Blood Spear or maybe work on a different project, I think I'm going to keep an eye on the developers of this game. Something about this game just kind of left me itching for more, and I'm really hoping that they do something else with it. But if they don't and work on another project, I think it'll be just as special.